okay? All right, let's see if we can start at the top. So I want to go over some basic stuff because a lot of us as Americans don't have a ton of exposure to Brazilian speaking in Portuguese, and it's good to know sometimes these terms because we get to use them a lot in workshops and when we're working with new teachers who maybe don't have the best English, they'll use these terms in Portuguese. So let's just dive right into this. I'm going to start with something very basic. Strap. So we all use Samba straps. I have some featured from the lovely company Macapar up here. I'd say the best straps out of Brazil right now. Love them, absolutely support them, and you can get them on some websites like Virada Drums or Go Samba. There's some great websites that you can get them here in the States. But Talabarte is how you say it in Portuguese. And if you're unfamiliar with Portuguese, T's often become a CH sound, and E's and hard consonants at the end of the words, they also often get a vowel sound after that. So Talabarte. And the R is really light, kind of almost like an H sound. You're not saying Talabarte like a strong R unless you're from Sao Paulo. But in Rio, you would say it with this air, like ehi kind of sound, almost guttural, but not quite. So Talabarte is going to be the strap, whether you're referring to one that goes over your shoulder or one that goes around your waist. Talabarte, exato. So let's go on from there. Slide my thing down here. Very common, something that we all need to know when we are talking about drums is drumstick. And for drumstick, it's a baqueta. And Baqueta is spelled, for those of you who are on Instagram and don't have my little slide sheet up there, Baqueta is Baqueta. And if you have multiple baqueta, they are baquetas. Just throw an S on it, and that's just a pair of drumsticks. Precisamos baquetas. We need some drumsticks over here. Very important to know how to do. What's up, Vaguinho? All right, so up next on my sheet is maceta. Now, a lot of times you can get away with calling a Surdu mallet a baqueta. It's also a drumstick, but it's a little bit different. Maceta is going to be what you're going to call a Surdu mallet, and that's one with a little fuzzy head on it. It's got a wooden shaft, and if you're on the IG, you're spelling it Maceta. Maceta is Surdu mallet. So drumstick, baqueta, Surdu mallet, maceta, and your strap, talabarte. Very important information for everybody to know. All right, we're gonna be flying through these terms here. Now, pele. Pele refers to skin, and that can either be your skin as a person or pele, skin that you're gonna be putting on the drum. And typically, if you say pele, you're gonna be meaning a natural, like animal skin, as featured in the picture here. That you can also have them of plastic, or you can say of nylon, pele de nylon, pele de cor. There's a couple different ways to refer to it, and typically you'll see pele of like skin on Surdus, and you see more plastic ones on drums like hapiki, caixa, though in the old days, obviously everything used to be animal skin, so it just becomes slang, even if you're not using an actual animal skin on the drum, that you refer to it as a pele. So, eu preciso trocar o pele na caixa, like I need to change, oi, tudo bem? The skin on the drum. So if you hear someone refer to a pele, that's what we're talking about, the skin of the drum. All right, up next. So I definitely wanted to get into talking about Surdus because there's a lot of different names for the different styles and sizes of Surdu. And I'm just going to talk right now about the Rio style. Bahia has a whole other set of terms for all these different drums. And so in Rio, when you're talking about the set of 3 different size Surdus, you've got the biggest one of the ensemble is the first drum, the primeira. And you can also call it the marcação. And it's the drum that marks the heavy beat, just called marcação, you're marking. And it's playing on 2 and 4 typically. It's marking the beat, doom, goom. The strong beat in Brazilian music is 2 and 4 rather than on 1 and 3, like a lot of times in American music. So you can call that big low drum, which is typically anywhere between 22 to even 28 inches wide on the rim. That is your marcação, that is your primeira, that is your first surdu, the big one. Now in the next size up, which is going to be anywhere from 20 to 22, sometimes you might see an 18, but it's generally around that 20-inch size, is the segunda, the second drum. It's the middle pitched one. It is also called the resposta, which if the marcação is playing the main beat, your resposta is the response to the main beat. So after the main beat is hit, boom, bing, bing is the response to the marking of the beat on the marcação. So the segunda, you can call it segunda, you can call it resposta. In English, we call it the second surdu. Or it can be the responding surdu, but I haven't really heard anybody call that in English. All right, then the smallest drum, we have the third surdu, as we typically call it in English, which is anywhere between 16 to 20 inches, so typically lives around 18. You call that the terceira, which is the third surdu, or you can call it the corte or corteador. And that's referring to what we call cutting on that surdu. So the third surdu, you get to play all the notes in between the other drums. So we're calling it the corteador or quem corte, like the person who cuts in between. So, hey, toca corte. So you play your cuts in between the other drums. Or toca terceira. Often if you're doing a breakdown in the ensemble and you want, like, say, the caixas to keep going, caixa, and third surdu or third surdu, keep going. So you always have that as a reference that it's the third drum, and you can cue it that way of third surdu, caixa, vamos, continua en frente. So those are all the different kinds of surdus in Rio and the general terms that we refer to them. Let's move on. And by the way, fun fact, in case anybody doesn't know, the word surdu itself is a direct translation of the word deaf, as in hard of hearing, can't hear. So you can imagine these big giant drums are known as the drums that make you go deaf. All right, let's get into a few more particular things. Eskenta da bateria. So eskentar means to warm up, to heat up. So when you're talking about warming up the bateria, we talk about eskenta, to warm up the bateria. And the group of drums, I kind of skipped over even saying what the bateria is, because I think most people know what that is, but bateria is the whole ensemble of drummers that play in Carnival. So eskenta da bateria comes from eskentar, which is to warm up. And if you're coming from Rio, the accent in Rio tends to put a sh sound on that eskenta rather than eskenta. So depending on what area of Brazil you are in, you might hear it sound a little bit different, but specifically in Rio, generally you're going to hear eskenta, which is really fun to pick up that carioca accent. I personally love it. It took me a while to come around to it because I know a lot of Paulistas, and so I had to kind of leave the Paulista accent aside, leave my R's aside, and pick up that sh sound, which is really fun to do. All right, so eskenta da bateria, and typically the eskenta happens before the parade starts, the big competition of Carnival. The bateria will begin with a warm-up with an eskenta, and then you get into the rest of the competition. So if you hear your teacher say, vamos a esquentar, let's warm up, and that's your cue that, hey, time to get the drums, time to get going, listen to your teachers, pay attention, and get going. All right, very important thing. Refinação. Hefina means to tune, to refine the drum. So before you start playing, you're going to say, vamos refinar os tambores. Let's refine, let's tune the drums. And if you want to ask about how the drums are tuned, like, como é a refinação dos tambores? So in general, the idea of tuning is refinação. So if you want to ask somebody, like, do you prefer the drums tuned high? Do you prefer it low? Like, você queria uma refinação mais grave, mais alto? It's a way of just getting an idea of how the drums are tuned. And then, of course, the thing you need to tune the drums is a chave, the key that you're using to actually turn the drums. So you have your chave, or clave if you're coming from Spanish, to fix your refinação, or I'm going to eu vou refinar os tambores. So very important stuff. If maybe you have a guest teacher come in, oi, obrigada, thank you, and maybe they ask, have you tuned the drums yet? Já refinou os tambores? Then you know if you should answer yes or no, and make sure that happens before a workshop starts. Bam. All right. Tons of terms. All right, so I have a whole list of stuff up here. If you're on IG, on Facebook, I've got all these terms written out. I still haven't figured out how to cross stream. It just is not possible at the moment. Someday it will happen though. So music terms, talking about all the different stuff that can happen in the bateria. Let's just start at the top of this list and work our way down. First up, chamada resposta. We already talked about resposta with being the response, right? You have the marcação, resposta, the playing and the response. Chamada and resposta is referring to call and response. So if you think of some of the typical samba breaks, especially some of the older school stuff, beginning of Brasileiro, Sergio Mendes, that's a call and response. And typically in the bateria, that's going to be the repique doing the call and the rest of the ensemble doing the response. So you have your chamada e resposta. And then another term for a break is basa. Basa, if you think of bossa nova, which literally means new beat. It refers to a beat, and typically it's a big break that happens with the whole bateria, either in the middle of a song or arrangement or beginning or after it. And historically, the signal for it has been two hands up like this, kind of showing big, strong arms for a big, strong break, signaling that a basa is going to happen. And there's different kinds of basas. I talked a little bit about this in my class, breaking down the samba and Surdu format, where you have the basa de baixo, which comes, baixo means like the bottom or low part of the song, like at the end of the song. Basa do refrão, the break that goes in the chorus. Basa a cabeça, the one at the top of the cabeça. But just in general, you don't need to worry about the rest of those. In general, basa is just a term for a big break. All right, next up, chamada. So we already got the word chamada from chamada resposta. Chamada means call. So vou chamar, I will call. So it's just coming from the verb to call. And chamada, besides a call and response, is also what you would call with the repinique, when the repinique is going to call in the whole bateria to start with something like they're calling the whole ensemble to come in, so they play the chamada, and it typically boom bing, and everybody comes in. So chamada is a very important one if you want to get started. Repique, toca chamada, vamos chamar a bateria. Like, let's call the bateria, it's time to call, make it happen. Up next, how about virada? So virada is coming from the verb virar, which is to turn. And the idea of a virada is a typical break that I'm sure most of us have heard at this point. And the idea of where the virada sits in the samba and Surdu is that it's a turning point. So you play a virada to turn from one section of the song to another one. So vamos virar, let's turn. Toca virada, let's play the virada. Is just, and typically the signal is almost like turning a light bulb, like you're replacing a light bulb. You do this and count 1, 2, 3, 4, boom, bing, and you're in. So virada, super important. I've also heard it referred to as preparação, like preparation, and you hear that a lot if you're going to play a preparation or a virada to go into a basa. Rather than going into it straight, you're going to play a little preparation. And I've mostly heard that term from Mr. Ailton Nunes of Mangueira. Most of the other teachers I've worked with will call it a virada, but he calls it that too. Either way, it works fine. It's just a term that we all know what that means. All right, so the next one, lavada. Let's do the next two together because they kind of work together. Lavada and batida. Lavada is the idea of the groove or the basic pattern that you will play and repeat as you're going. So, a lavada de caixa, the groove of the caixa. Vamos tocar essa lavada aqui. Let's play this lavada. Same kind of idea, batida, like bater is to beat the drum kind of idea. That gets used a lot in baqui, bater, batucada. That root word gets used a lot in samba. So batida is just referring to the beat that you're playing. So batida de repique, lavada de repique. It's the same basic concept. I'm sure there's some little differences that I might not be picking up in what's up, Jimmy? Tudo bem? In the subtleties of it, but they're kind of interchangeable. There's probably some little differences there, but you can say either one, it works just fine. All right, that brings us to andamento. So if you think of the word andar, the base verb is to walk. So andamento refers to the tempo that the group plays. So the speed that you're at, the tempo, the maintaining of that tempo. Some schools have andamento rápido, pouco atrás, either one. So if you want to talk about the speed that you should be playing at, andamento is the term that you want to be using for that. Related to that, actually, I'm going to skip a few down on my list to correndo, because andamento refers to walking, the pace that you're walking. Correndo refers to running, which is also rushing. So if you hear someone say, a bateria está correndo, the bateria is rushing, which means they're going too fast. They're too excited. They're having too much fun. They're taking off. So não pode correr. You can't run. You have to keep the andamento. You have to keep it basic. Don't rush. So now corre. Don't run. So correndo means that you're rushing. So backing up to, we're going to go back over to compasso. Compasso is an important one to know, and it refers to a phrase or a measure. So if you're dealing with Western music in 4/4, like we count samba, ding, gong, gong, bing, gorong, go, ding. Compasso would be a section of 4 beats. 1, 2, 3, 4. And typically it's a phrase, so you would repeat this phrase. So, vamos tocar 4 compassos. Let's play 4 measures and then we'll stop, right? So it's a good one if you're working on playing grooves. Say like, okay, we're going to play the virada. We're going to play the groove 4 times. We'll play the virada and stop. Vamos tocar virada, 4 compassos, e depois virar e parar. So compassos in general, that's a really nice one to know, especially when you're teaching new stuff. Like, okay, this break, we're going to play for this many measures, and then you're going to play this other thing, and then you're going to play this, and you play this many measures again. You would use the term compasso. All right, so moving on, parada. Parada kind of fits in the category of words used for breaks. So para, P-A-R-A-R, means to stop. So this is literally in its conjugation a stopping. So it's the idea that the groove of the bateria is going to stop and they're going to play something else, and maybe they're stopping in front of the judges in Carnival in the competition, and they're going to play a parada, a stopped break, and they're going to keep going. It doesn't necessarily refer to stopping of the step of the bateria. It's more like stop the groove, play a thing, and keep going. So you keep that idea of para, parada. Anytime you get that ada at the end of a verb, it makes it an action. So the same thing with like lavada, virada, to turn. It's turning. Lavada, it's grooving. Parada, it's stopping. So it's a little stop in reference to a break. All right, we already did correndo. All right, I threw Telecateco up here partially because of the fun comments I was getting on the post today. I had to put Telecateco up there because it's an onomatopoeia, and I love the word onomatopoeia. If y'all know me, I'm kind of a nerd. Onomatopoeia is referring to a word that is created based on the sounds involved in it. So, like, what's a good word? Like saying hush is an onomatopoeia for going shh, hush. a slithering snake, that kind of idea. So telekateku is a vocalization based on the type of pattern that tambourines typically play. You go tak 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 teleku teku teku teku. And so onomatopoeia just means that the word describes what's happening. So telekateku is just referring to a specific pattern that's played by the tambourines, usually in the second section of the samba, after the second virada. We're going pa 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 pa. So that's where that comes from. I love it, and I got a chance to say my favorite word in the English language, which is onomatopoeia. So thanks for that opportunity. So sticking with tambourine, I think most tambourine players know this already, but if you're not, maybe not a tambourine player, maybe you don't know this one. Carreteiro specifically refers to the other typical pattern that happens on tambourine, which is the flip. Carreteiro, carreteiro. I actually don't know what this word means, and if there's anybody watching right now here, what that word necessarily translates to, I do not know. Alguém aqui no Instagram, vocês sabem onde começou a palavra carreteiro? Eu não sei por que usamos a palavra carreteiro. Se vocês sabem, me avisa, por favor, escreve aqui para mim. So if you know what it means, please let me know. I would love to learn that. That would be great to know. Let's see, paragina. I didn't write it down, but I did want to put desenho up here as well in reference to the tambourine stuff, and for anything. Desenho means design. And so a lot of times if you have a complicated arrangement, you'll refer to it as a design rather than, you can call it a arranjo, but more typically, especially those long patterns and things that the tambourines learn, you call it a desenho, aka design, because it fits within the design of the song, and there are probably a bunch of different reasons, but that's a good one to know in general. All right, last one for music terms. This one's kind of a little, not necessarily slang, but toca reto. Reto is short for direto, which means straight ahead. A fun thing that my friend Halison da Silva taught me was that there's direita and there's direto. And direita is to the right because it's feminine and women are always right. Don't forget that, guys. That's how you keep them different. That's how I remember to keep them apart as well. So reto is short for direto. And so that's straight ahead. Toca, tocar is to play or to touch. So toca reto is just like play straight ahead. If you're, it's time to get started and it's like, hey, toca reto, toca reto. Okay, just play straight ahead, no variations, basic patterns, nothing fancy. Toca reto. That one's a really important one. And again, R's become an H sound rather than a strong R sound. You wouldn't say reto with an R. Toca reto or direto. All right, so that's our music terms. We're plowing straight ahead here. Okay, Escola de Samba terms. So stuff that you might encounter in the samba school or in reference to rehearsals or carnival, all that kind of fun stuff. First one up here, ensaio. This one is very important. Right now we can't have ensaios. Ensaio is a rehearsal or a practice. So like vamos ensaiar, throw an R at the end of it, becomes the verb to rehearse. So ensaiar or o ensaio, the rehearsal. Very important. I miss rehearsals right now. I'm sure everybody else is as well. So ensaio da bateria, ensaio da escola, you either have a rehearsal of the bateria or a rehearsal of the school. Whatever it happens to be, you use this in dance as well. Ensaio samba no pé, ensaio das passistas. Passistas are the dancers. Lots of ways to use ensaio. Very good, important word. All right. After that, how about palco? Very good word. Palco means stage. So you say ensaio no palco, have a stage rehearsal. Very important combination of words there. There's also a really fun song by, I think it's Caetano Veloso, I think, called Palco, which is a great song. Always recommend it. So palco just refers to your stage. And related to that, I got a grouping of words up here. In the Carnival in Rio, there is one main street where the competition happens and where the judges and the grandstands, all that, and they have a ton of different terms for that street in general. The actual name of the street is Hua blah 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 Sapucaí, and so that's the actual street name. If you're looking it up on Google Maps, you look for Sapucaí. That's the name of the actual street. They also call it the Avenida because it's an avenue. Avenida means avenue. And they also call it pasarela. And pasarela means the catwalk. So it's, imagine, it's a really big catwalk for a 3,000 person samba school, but pasarela, you're going to go walking on the catwalk, you're going to go to Sapucaí, you're going to dashfila na avenida, all the different terms that you might hear when referring to the carnival competitions that happen in Rio. You also hear the stadium itself, I should have written this down, is called the Sambodromo, and not Sambadromo, Sambodromo, that little accent over the O on it, and the dome of Samba, something to that effect. But when they upgraded that street and built in all the new stadium seating and all that stuff, they were calling it the Sambodromo. All right. Also, carnival, very important term is fantasia. Fantasia, literally we're talking about making a fantasy, but it generally refers to your costume that you wear either in carnival, or if you're a samba dancer with your feathers, or if you're a drummer in your outfit, whatever you're wearing that is not your normal day-to-day stuff, that is your fantasia. And every school, each section has their own groups and themes for their fantasias, but that one's pretty important. And it's pretty easy to remember, like you're living a moment of fantasy. If you think of some of the beautiful old carnival songs talking about working all year long to buy your costume and be able to parade and live this moment in the sun, this fantasy where you get to be a king for one day. If you listen to the words of E Hoje, the samba enredo from União da Ilha in 1982, I think. Fantastic song that's all about the pride of being the happiest person be walking down the Avenida, because you have your costume and you're coming down all full of yourself. It's great. All right, next up, these two kind of go together because they're fairly synonymous. Bandera and pavilion are both referring to the samba school's flag or their banner, which is considered a very important and reverently cared for part of the samba school. There's a whole ritual around introducing the flag to the different members of the community as cared for by the porta-bandera mestre sala. If you're not familiar with those terms, porta-bandera is the name or the term for the woman who carries the flag and holds it on her hip and protects it. And then the mestre sala is the man who guards her and guards the flag, and he dances around her, circling her, and typically has either a fan or something symbolic that would be symbolic of a weapon guarding the flag itself. So bandera, pavilion, two different terms, kind of interchangeable for the official school flag of whatever samba school. Very important stuff. All right, next up, equipe, naipe. These are two terms that you would, if you're coming from a Western music background, you would say your section. Like your equipe, a caixa equipe is like your caixa section, your snare drum section. Naipe tends to refer more like, generally it's used talking about suits of cards, like hearts and spades and diamonds and all that stuff. So it's still referring to the same idea of being in the same group of people, like people of the same stripes, for lack of a better term. So you have your equipe dos Surdus, naipe de tamborim, you kind of refer it to the same way. So equipe is a pretty nice, useful term if you want to have a sectional, call a sectional. Vamos chamar as caixas para fazer ensaio do equipe caixa. Something like that. Excellent word to have. All right, couple more up here. Apitu. Apitu is very important. Apitu is a whistle. So whether it's a tritone whistle or a normal whistle, like the Fox 40 classic samba whistle that half the world uses, apitu is what every director and mestre is going to have in the bateria to call everybody into the various sections of the stuff. And either whether it's played musically or to direct what's happening in the group, apitu. So toca apitu, chora apitu. All right, and the apitu is used by the mestre and the director. So mestre literally translates to master, and it is the master of the bateria. It's the person who's at the very front, passing the signals down to the directors, coming up with the arrangements, running rehearsals. They run the entire bateria. It's a place of great honor and respect, and generally, you will always hear the people within the school refer to the person in front of the bateria as the mestre. It's a very important title. You should use it whenever referring to your teachers if they have a mestre title. It's a thing of respect. Definitely one should do. So directly under the mestre are the directors or directoras. There are these days a lot more women as directors in the bateria, and typically each section of instruments has at least one director. Especially tambourin is very important. The ones that play a lot of designs and different material has a section, like chocalho, like tambourin, like third surdu. There is a specific person who will guide them through the samba and enredo and work them out. And then down the middle of the bateria, there's a whole line of directors. They usually typically divide the bateria in half. Vertically, if you're walking down the avenida that way, there's a line down the middle, and you have a whole row of directors who are passing the signal from the mestre in the front down the line so everybody gets a chance to see it. And if you're number 300 of the 300 drummers all the way in the back, then you still get a chance to see those signals, which is very nice. All right. Let's go last, but maybe not least. Is this my last one? Ah, it is pushador, just because I love this word. Pushador refers to the singer, the main singer of the samba school, and puxar means to pull, as opposed to pular, which is to push, which if you ever go to Brazil and go to the banks, puxa and pular is exactly opposite of what you would expect that to mean, and it drives me crazy. Still, after 6 trips to Brazil, I mix up those doors. So puxa, puxar, puxador is the one who pulls the song along. So they're the head singer, and they are the ones who call in everything and pull the samba school along as they go. All right, so that is the main stuff that I prepared, and I do want to open it up to all of you if anybody has any questions or specific terms that they would love to check out. I am super down to help out. I am not fully super fluent, but I'm getting pretty darn good at Portuguese. I'm seeing that some comments are coming in, but I'm not really seeing comments on here. What's up with that? I'm going to try refreshing the stream real quick just to see what happens. Oh, there they are. Yay! Sorry, everybody on Facebook. These comments were not... Joe, yes, thank you, Joe. So Joe had a good question about what the heck are we saying to stop the words. So typically in a pagode environment, when it's time to stop a song, they say pediu pra parar, parou. I'll break that down in a second. Pediu pra parar is pediu is I asked or you asked to stop. Pediu pra parar. And then parou is past tense of you stopped. So to say it nice and slow, sorry Joe for taking so long to get around to it. Pediu pra parar, parou. And then you have to say that many times over and over. Just pediu pra parar, parou, and hopefully get it right. All right, so Daniel in Instagram's asking, how do you refer to the pickup note? That is a really good question. I do not know in Portuguese the term for the pickup note. Oh, it would be like anticipation, maybe antecipação. because it's the anticipating the note that comes in before. But that's a really good question. If anybody out here who's listening, check it out. Oh, interesting. Thanks, Rob. Subdivision. Sorry, I'm playing a little catch up in the chat right here. Oi, Flavio. Bam. Bow dentro. What the I'm not answering that, Steve. That means something dirty. Abraço, Kevin. All right, paragina versus basa. I would argue that they are very similar. I would really say it's almost the same thing because they're both stopped breaks where typically the groove is stopping and then something else is happening. So yeah, I cannot necessarily define the difference between paragina and basa. I would say paragina sounds a little bit newer, a newer terminology. And inha on it is implying that it's a little. Paragina is a diminutive. So perhaps, this is speculative on my end, the inha paragina is referring to like a smaller little break versus a basa being the big strong break. So that is a possible option of that as well. And again, if anybody out there in the world who's listening knows the answer to that question, that would be great to know as well. Bam, I'm going to move that back down because apparently that was being blocked. All right. Anyone else have any questions? Hi, Sylvie. How are you? So there's definitely a lot more terminology out there. I didn't necessarily want this to be a Portuguese class because I am in no way certified to teach Portuguese. Everything I've learned has basically been on the street and in Duolingo. So I'm not going to teach you all conjugations, but hopefully a little bit of this vocab helped out a lot. And cozinha, no, that's a good one. Cozinha. So in sorry, English. My brain's turning into Portuguese. I'm forgetting how to speak English. In the middle of the bateria, typically they like to put the best and strongest players in the middle rather than being in front like we put a lot of times in the United States. And so they put the core group of people in the center to hold everything down, and then everybody can clue into the middle and really lock into that. And a lot of times that little small crew will start first and get the groove going before calling in the whole bateria. And that little crew in the middle is called the cozinha. And cozinha is the kitchen. So we're cooking up a groove in the kitchen and making it hot and getting it ready to go. What's up, Rocio? What's up? I've also heard that referred as nucleo, like the nucleus of the bateria, which is a pretty cool term for that same idea. So either cozinha, nucleo, something like that. I dig it. Let's see, what's some other fun stuff that we can talk about Carnival terms? Oh, I didn't put in dashfili. Dashfili is the parade. Actually, dashfila is to parade. Oh, I'm blocking my own dang face. Getting used to multiple screens, everybody. It's new, new stuff. Dashfila is to parade. And so dashfili is the actual parade itself. So the dashfili of Carnival, all that fun stuff. All right, anyone else have any questions or want to know about any other terms? There's all kinds of slang in the bateria. What's a fun one? I think feda is probably a fun one to know. F-E-R-A, feda, is generally referring to someone who's a badass, like this person who plays amazingly. Maybe like the lead solo player is fera, ele é muito fera, or so fera que, like, there's only awesome players here. So that's a fun one that you can, if you're really impressed with someone, you can say ele toca muito, he plays a lot, ela toca muito, or you can say ele é fera, he's a beast, kind of what that's kind of about. Tamba or zabumba. I don't know tamba, but tambour is generally just the generic name for drum. Tambour is drum, and that can refer to just about any type of drum. Zabumba is specifically a drum from the forró ensemble, and it's a thin bass drum that's played on one side with a maceta, hey, vocab words from earlier, a mallet, and the other side with a thin reed or plastic stick, so you get two different pitches out of it, and that's a zabumba. But tambour is just any old drum, generic term style. Any others? Or I'm gonna go have a cerveja and enjoy the rest of my evening. All right, I think unless we get a few more popping up here, I said eskenta already, but just if you're, in case you're just popping up here, eskenta was near the beginning. Eskenta is to warm up the bateria, or eskenta is to warm up with the R, and then eskenta is what you would do to warm up the bateria. Cerveja, yes. So cerveja is beer. And right about now in my life, it's about beer 30. So cerveja, caipirinha is the national drink of Brazil. What other good stuff do you have at the Samba schools? Refrigerante. Let's see. Eli broca. I don't know broca. What is broca? Brocar. Man. I gotta be careful what I'm repeating back. Y'all might be trying to make me say dirty things here. There's all kinds. I'm trying to not get into the dirty slang because none of y'all need to do that. Or, I mean, you need to do it. It's fun, but don't learn it from me. Learn it from some some other teachers. But Kevin, you gotta tell me what that means. I don't know what that means. That's a term I haven't heard. All right, Dotan's got feijoada. So not necessarily a musical term, but it is a place where music often happens, especially samba. Feijoada, feijão is beans. Specifically, feijoada is a preparation of beans, which usually has a lot of meats, side dishes of, hey, what's up? Yeah, you can participate. There's greens, like collard greens, there's meat, there's like crunchy bits of animal fat, there's an orange, but feijoada is absolutely delicious. He's good at it. Eli broca. Huh, nice. Okay. I'll trust you that you're not. I've had enough Brazilian friends tell me something isn't terrible, and then it actually is, and then I say it and I get in trouble. Oi, tudo bem? So, and that made me think of another, quebra tudo. I wanted to say that one because that's a fun slang that is pretty cool. So quebra, with a Q in the beginning of it, is to break, and tudo is everything. So quebra tudo is like break it all, but it's kind of more used like have a good show, break a leg. If you're about to go in, quebra tudo, vamos quebrar tudo, saying that like, let's go knock it out, let's mess it all, F it all up. I'm not going to say bad words because I'm trying to be professional. But quebra is a fun one. It's pretty cool. So quebra tudo, ele quebrou tudo. He broke it all. Good term in that idea. All right. All right. Any last ones? Last call for suggested terminology that maybe I didn't go through. Let's get rid of this little, don't need that up here. Bam. Now you just see me. All right. Cool. So I think that's probably going to do it today. Look, I'm going to be putting up a whole bunch of new stuff coming soon in the YouTube channel. Less live stuff and more actual produced stuff as I'm getting better at Adobe Premiere, which is very exciting. As always, I've got the virtual tip jar up in the class description for Facebook and Instagram. It's in my profile. You can check it out in the link tree. I've got Venmo, I've got PayPal, and if you guys are down to help out a little bit, it is much appreciated. It always helps out now that especially the world is getting back to normal a little bit, but we're still all adjusting. So I hope you all appreciated the content, and I think that's gonna do it for today. So thank you all once again. I will check in with you all hopefully again next week, and yeah, I think that's about it. If anybody has any questions about anything, feel free to hit me up in the DMs. I'm always down to help, and like a lot of people, I got time on my side, so I am down to one, take suggestions if anybody has a suggestion for a class topic, or two, has any questions about any of this stuff. I definitely don't know everything, but I know a few things, and I'm happy to share what I do know. And if I don't know the answer to something, I will be happy to tell you that I don't know the answer to that as well. Cool. So I think that's going to do it for today. Thank you all so much for coming in. I really appreciate you all showing up, and I will catch you all next time. Tchau, tchau. Beijos. Obrigado tudo.